Welcome to the Upward Spiral podcast. I am your host, Sovereign Sidmonu. I am very excited about this episode because if you are on a journey of being on an upward spiral, you gotta have some goals. You gotta have some goals. You gotta have some things that you're working towards. It's really good for your psyche, really good for your confidence, like to work towards something and possibly achieve it. And so this week, I'm looking forward to sharing all the things that I've learned about goals and how my mind has changed in order to achieve my goals. Because believe you me, I used to be like many people. I still am. Hold up. I still am like many people. I'm not the best at achieving my goals. I'm still improving, but I've learned a lot, okay? In previous years, I would do the whole rigmarole, every new year, every new month, I would start a new goal, right? I would have all these goals of being healthier, fit, being involved in my community, like all of these really great aspirations, really. Honestly, they were wishes at the time. I shouldn't even call them goals because they weren't defined. They weren't, I didn't really have a plan. I didn't really have any of that stuff. So really, they were just wishes. But, at the time they felt like goals to me and I was super excited. I would set them up. I would think about how to achieve them. I would sit in that energy, because I was looking online like how to achieve my goals, and you see a lot of times people are like, manifest it, just feel good. If you feel good and you think positive, like all of that stuff, you may not even have to put in any effort. It will just come to you easy. And I really took that to heart. And so I did all the things. I tried to feel as good as possible. I, tried to be as high vibrational as possible and kind of shied away from things that felt too much like effort because, it shouldn't feel like effort. It should just be easy, blah, blah, blah. And I want to talk about this because I got to a point where I was really frustrated. I'd set New Year's resolutions or whatever, and 6 months in, it'd be June, and all of the Instagram content would be like, it's the 6th month of the year. It's time to put in that effort. Like, you have only 6 months left. Like, look at yourself, like, blah, 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 blah. And it was all really great, fine and dandy, because I would actually take the time to reflect, and I would often feel like, whoa, time has just passed. I don't even know what happened. How did I get here? And why am I still in the same place? So if this is something that you relate to, I want you to listen up closely to this podcast because I'm going to talk about the mindsets, the key thinking habits, the ways in which successful people think, and then the ways in which unsuccessful people think. Because what I realized is that successful people and unsuccessful people have the same goals. They have the same amount of wanting, they have the same desires, and yet one person is successful and the other person is not. So, I had the stark realization that, whoa, wanting something is just not enough. So what are the key differences between those two people, right? They can have the same goal of being healthy, fit, in their community, have a partner, blah, 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 but some people achieve that, some people don't. That is what we are going to explore today. Obviously, like I said, I'm not a pro. I'm not like a billionaire yet, working on my way to $1 million, but I have achieved pretty much all of the goals that I wanted to for this year. And I hope to continue developing that habit and the mindset that has gotten me to this place. There will be many, many more podcasts in the future as I learn more on my journey. But for now, I will share what I've learned and what I know. Let's rephrase successful and unsuccessful, and let's talk about healthy and unhealthy ways of thinking that lead you towards success or quote unquote failure. The reason why I'm choosing to reframe this is because successful and failure, it's a very personal definition. What I might define to me as being successful might be an epic failure to you. And so just bear that in mind, that your definition of success and failure is very personal. So I'm just going to use the terms healthy and unhealthy in terms of mindsets that move you towards what you want to achieve versus mindsets that are actually a detriment to helping you get to where you want to go. So let's start with just in general, a healthy perspective on what a goal is. So back in the day, I would set goals and I was really, really focused on the outcome, on the actual goal. So let's say I wanted to start a business or I wanted to get fit. I was super focused on how much money I was making, or I was focused on how much weight I was or was not losing. Like it was always based on the outcome, right? The tangible thing. And that's really good because when you have a goal, you want it to be tangible. You want it to be very specific, timely, like a SMART goal, right? But a healthy person doesn't focus too much on that specific tangible. That's just a focal point, right? That's just like a focal point. What that focal point does is it spotlights and informs you of the person that you want to become in the process. The reward of the goal itself is not the specific goal, like the day when you reach the finish line of the marathon you run, or the day you get the award. The real reward is the person you became in order to get that award. Does that make sense? So that goal is just a milestone on a journey of who they're becoming. It's not the goal itself that they're super focused on. They're actually focused on who they have to become in order to achieve that goal. And that brings me to my next point, how a person might look at a goal who has a more healthy relationship with goal setting is that their goals are sustainable and they are meant to be long term. Even though they have this milestone, this one specific thing they'd like to achieve, essentially the goal itself, that tangible thing, is just a blip in the long, long journey of who they're becoming. A concept that really shifted my mindset in terms of goals and goal setting was the concept of finite goals versus infinite goals. So a finite goal is what we usually have, right? It is term milestone, like I want to run a marathon, I want to lose 10 pounds, I want to, launch the business, blah, blah, blah. There's a clear end point. This concept of finite versus infinite goals was derived from Simon Sinek. He talks about finite games versus infinite games, where a finite game has a clear winner, like a soccer game or a race, right? There's a specific tangible end point to something. And then he talks about an infinite game. And an infinite game is a game that's just continuously played. There's no clear winner, there's no clear loser. The point of the game is to just keep playing. This is something like personal development or a relationship, right? You can't win at marriage, right? Who knows who has the best marriage? You can't really even win at business. Like maybe you have the best business for a few years because you make the most revenue, but like things change and there's new players constantly coming into the game, right? You might be at the tippy top right now of your business, but like a new player might come in the next day and completely blow you out of the water. But you're not just going to end your business because someone's doing better than you. You're going to keep playing. The point of the game is to just keep playing for as ever long as you possibly can. And so I kind of derived this concept of infinite versus finite goals from this concept of finite games versus infinite games, because a finite goal is that short-term milestone with a clear endpoint. It's that SMART goal, right? I want to lose 10 pounds by this day. I want to have a partner by the end of the year. I want to complete this project by this deadline. Whereas an infinite game is just based off growth, right? And an infinite goal is something that is tied to your identity. It's tied to your values. So you can say one of my values is to be compassionate. How do you know if you're the most compassionate person, right? You don't. There's no measure of that. You just keep being compassionate for as long as you possibly can, right? It's part of your identity, who you see yourself as, who you're striving to be on the day to day. So why this is important is because let's say you have a goal of losing 10 pounds for your wedding. You could do that in two ways. You can do that by starving yourself, or if you have an infinite goal of being a healthy person, you will eat healthy, go to the gym, lose weight, and a byproduct of that, right? A byproduct of that journey of who you're becoming is that blip that I talked about. That finite goal will be hit of losing 10 pounds. But then once you lose the 10 pounds, it's not over. You just keep being healthy, right? So your goal is to be as healthy for as long as possible. It's really important to have both of these types of goals because the short-term finite goals actually provide you with direction and urgency and tangible checkpoints of how you are progressing along the journey, whereas an infinite goal is kind of your guiding compass and it tells you how you're going to do that thing and it's tied to who you're becoming, right? And so you want to kind of anchor that and have these daily goals and things that you want to continuously do every day to be the person you want to be. But then also you want those checkpoints to know that, hey, I'm doing a good job. And a person who is successful has both of these things, right? So they're tied to their values and their identity that they've chosen for themselves, right? Because you are who you choose to be. But they also have those checkpoints where they can celebrate themselves. And there's a really great interplay between the two. Now, I want to bring back in the concept of success because I had to redefine it for myself. I mentioned before that success is something that is very personal and it's a personal decision on what that means to you. For me, what I've redefined success to be is less tied to those finite goals, right? The actual outcome of what I want. And it's more tied to my infinite goals, which is I want to be a person who is compassionate. I want to be a person who is loving to myself. I want to be a person who is, healthy, all of those things. And there's really tiny decisions, even just drinking water instead of soda when you go out for dinner, or asking questions instead of judging someone when they come to you, or even asking yourself questions instead of judging yourself, right? And those are ways in which I can be compassionate and healthy. Those are my infinite goals. And it varies from day to day, the decisions I make. What I've redefined success to mean to me is consistently making choices that align with my values and the identity that I'm choosing for myself. And that can be so small, like I mentioned. And it's so easy when something feels small for us to completely devalue it. We often want change to be this big, monumental thing that just happened to us. A lot of talk right now in the new age communities about quantum leaps and waking up in a new timeline and just basically overnight becoming a new person. But that's not really how change works. Even if we look at the literature of where this theory came from, you can see that there's kind of a misunderstanding of how things are. So if you look into quantum theory, for those of you who are into quantum leaping, it refers to an abrupt transition of an electron or another particle from which energy jumps from one level to another. And it happens really fast, right? It happens abruptly and really fast. But if you actually understand what's going on, you'll realize that this jump is just a moment in time that is part of a larger process that has been happening and will continue happening. All of the conditions, the electrons moving, heating up, like all of those conditions were met. That's when the quantum leap occurred. But it's a process, right? It doesn't just randomly happen. It actually is a whole process. So just if you're into that new age stuff, like definitely think about some of those like pseudoscience and ways that people are extracting meanings, and think about how it's helpful or not helpful from you, because that can create really unrealistic expectations, which is another mindset that a lot of people have when thinking about goals and achieving them. They have really unrealistic expectations. You're not going to just change overnight. I'm sorry, baby. I know it would be so nice if you could just want that and wake up the next morning and change. But what you'll realize, even for the times when you think that happened, is that there was a lot of mental processing and realizations that occurred before you made that transition and that switch. What that change looks like are tiny little moments that matter, that you might not think matter, but totally matter. Like I mentioned before, it's you drinking water or reading for 10 minutes or choosing gratitude in a moment where it might feel challenging to do that. And these things don't seem to make a difference because they're really easy not to do, but they're also really easy to do. We usually want it to be like hard and challenging, but I want you to think of this concept of like small, tiny things that you're doing day to day. It's like tiny droplets of water that formed the Grand Canyon. It wasn't a flash flood. It wasn't this instantaneous moment that created that. It's over time created this grand canyon. It's amazing. That brings me back to what I've defined success to mean to me is that I'm committed to the daily process of becoming who I want to be. Sometimes those blips, those finite goals that I've desired happen. Sometimes they take a little longer than not. But during that time, I'm becoming and I already feel successful, right? I already feel it within my bones because I'm taking action to be the person I want to be. And the speed at which I hit those goals don't matter as much as the fact that I'm headed in the right direction. So just food for thought in case you're looking to redefine what success might mean to you, something that might be a little easier for your nervous system to handle than I need to be a millionaire tomorrow. Let's jump into the next mindset that a lot of people who have a healthy relationship with goals think. And this one was massive for me, okay? Goals are a skill. Just like any other thing, everything is a skill. And this concept blew my mind because many times when I was feeling down about myself, I was anxious and I was scared, and I just felt like I see all these people around me who are succeeding, yet here I am failing, being in the same place. I'm stuck. And I would make these judgments of myself, right? I'm lazy, I'm inconsistent. That is based on a belief set that people are lucky or that there's just innate talent and that's it. That's a very fixed mindset. It's like I was born with these skills or not. But that's not true. Just like no one is born playing the violin, no one is born knowing how to achieve goals, okay? It's something they've learned and cultivated. It's a habit they've cultivated. It is a mindset they've cultivated. You don't just ask a child who's on their first day of violin to come play with the Philharmonic, as good as they may be. And they might have a natural proclivity to playing the violin. It might come a little easier to them, right? It might make a little bit more sense. But you still have to practice. You still have to put in effort day in and day out in order to get to the levels that you want. It's a mixture of the two. So if you don't have the innate talent right now and the natural proclivity to it, just know that you can still develop a skill. I know tons of tone deaf singers who have learned to sing, even though their natural proclivity is like not being able to hear tones correctly. Just like any skill, you're going to suck at it. You're going to be bad at it, and that is okay. All right? That's part of the learning process. It's a trial and error learning process, and I'm sorry to report to you that trial and error contains error. You are going to make mistakes, but you are going to learn from them. If you're freaking out right now because you don't know how to consistently achieve your goals, I just want to show you how hard you are being on yourself. Like I said, if it's your day one at a skill, I'm not expecting you to be an expert, and you shouldn't expect yourself either to be. There are a lot of skills that go into achieving your goals. I say the term achieving your goals, but it's actually a bundle of skills that you have to break down and be somewhat decent at all of them in order to consistently show up in the ways that you want to. So, okay, let me read some of the I wrote down. In terms of emotional regulation, you need to be self-aware. And self-aware doesn't mean you just know everything bad about you. You also need to know how to celebrate yourself and how to praise yourself, okay? You need resilience. You need to learn how to come back from setbacks and frustrations and failures without losing motivation or giving up. You need patience. You need to understand that progress takes time, and you need to be able to handle the emotional ups and downs that come with the process. You need self-control to manage all of your impulses and stay focused on long-term goals and not just give in to short-term desires. You need stress management because you need to be able to stay calm and composed when things don't go as planned or when you're faced with challenges. You need to learn how to not use procrastination as a coping mechanism for stress, right? That's just emotional regulation. And then on the technical side, you need to be good at having clarity of your vision, deciding what you want, That was a skill that was hard for me. I wanted to do everything. I wasn't able to prioritize. I wasn't able to have a compelling vision and emotionally connect with the vision that I had for myself. You also need to learn how to do goal setting. So you need to learn how to make them a SMART goal, make them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. You need to have strategic thinking so that you're able to look at the bigger picture and see how your daily actions align with that and fit into a larger life plan. You need to be adaptable because your plans are not going to go as they seem. And so you need to be able to be flexible and adaptable, yet rigid enough to follow through with your plans. And you need to be creative, right? All types of different types of creativity. On the time management front, you have to know how to prioritize, right? You have to know which tasks are the most important. And sometimes that's a really hard thing to do. That's why people get paid big bucks as project managers, okay, to do that for corporations so that you're not overwhelmed by the less important activities and you don't get lost in the sauce, okay? You need to learn how to schedule. That means time blocking yourself and actually deep work to complete the task that you gave yourself and have routines and rituals that support your objectives. You need to have focused attention and attention span. Okay, that's tough with TikTok and Instagram and shorts. All of that is taking away your attention span. You got to retrain that. You got to be good with your resources. You got to know how to delegate. You got to be able to use the tools that you have and start where you are. Oh my God. In terms of your commitment, you got to be accountable to yourself. You have to have discipline to be able to move towards your goal even when you don't feel like it. You have to be able to self-motivate and self-validate yourself because there's going to be a period of time where you're not going to see any results, but you're going to be taking all the action. And you're going to have to keep validating yourself so that you feel emotionally regulated enough to keep going on. You got to have a growth mindset. Oh my God, it's so many skills. You got to have a growth mindset. You have to change your beliefs and not feel like things are innate or unchangeable, that you can grow and learn as a skill. You have to have self-confidence to trust in your ability to get feedback and not have so much self-doubt that it's paralyzing to you. You got to learn how to be optimistic, baby. If you're depressed right now in a downward spiral, that's not a skill you've been working on. You got to be optimistic and have a positive outlook on the future, overcome your fears. And there's so many more things that go into that, but those are all skills bundled up into the concept of achieving your goals. So when I tell you, if you're a beginner at achieving your goals, it's because you haven't mastered all of those skills. And God, you don't even need to master them. You just need to be decent at them, okay? You don't need to do your 10,000 hours. There are so many skills, and I hope I didn't overwhelm you with that because they're all super easy to get started with and move towards. But I'm telling you, be gentle with yourself because someone who's successful knows that they need to take time to cultivate those behaviors in their life, right? To be able to go through that long list of stuff and say, yeah, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that, or I can learn how to do that. And today I might not be good at it, but I will be in the future if I keep up with it. I think a lot of times because we're so used to things being so quick and easy in society that we've really lost the ability to differentiate between failure and learning, okay? Because they can feel the same. Failure in your mind is you not being good at something, right? You doing something and it not being up to par with your expectations. To you, that might be failure. But to someone who's used to hitting their goals, that's just part of the process. That's part of the learning process. Failure would be not trying. And I know that's a cliche thing to say. Failure would be not doing, not directionally starting on the journey, not getting on the path and starting to walk the walk. That would be failure. If they get on the walk and they realize whoa, I'm really out of breath and this is much harder than I thought it would be, it's a learning moment. But to someone who has a fixed mindset, that's failure. They got up their first day to run a marathon and they couldn't run the marathon. Oh my God, shocking. Shocking. No, that's unfair to yourself. That's unrealistic. Of course you can't run the marathon. You probably can't even run 2 minutes straight. Make sure that when you're defining success and failure, that your concept of success has longevity and is stable enough to account for the big things and the small things. And then when you're defining what failure is, make sure that you're not confusing it with the learning process, which is doing something and not being good at it. Now, if you continuously act on something you're not good at it and you don't reflect, you don't try to understand what could make you be better, like learn and grow from it, then maybe you can consider that failure too, but whatever, maybe you're still trying. I don't know. It's up to you what you define it as, but just know that there's a difference between learning and failing, and figure out what the process for learning looks like for you. Depending on the tasks, learning might be faster, learning might be harder and slower, but you're still learning. So yeah, those are the major mindset shifts that I have had over the past year or so that have helped me to show up consistently for myself. As I mentioned before, I'm not perfect because I'm just still cultivating that skill. Okay, I'm not an expert at it yet. Maybe in like my 10,000th hour, right? 10,000 hours when I calculated it is 40 hours a week for 4 years. So once I'm 4 years into my journey of really going in and being consistent with my goals, I will be an absolute expert. But right now I'm still at the beginning stages, but I have learned a lot. Let's actually talk about some of those thought patterns that you might currently have if you're listening to this podcast and seeking help, but also that I had to break from. Some of those ways of having an unhealthy relationship with goals. And number one, like I mentioned before, is I would use goals to measure my self-worth. When I didn't hit a goal, I would internalize it as this inherent inadequacy that I had, and it would make me feel like complete shit. Even just the thought, I'm inconsistent, I didn't achieve this goal, so I'm not good enough, I'm lazy. You're just labeling yourself as this thing, but that's not who you are internally and inherently. Even if you've practiced it, because just like hitting your goals is a skill, so is being anxious and so is being lazy. You're practicing it. Every day you're choosing it. It's a practice. And so you've just gotten really good at being anxious. You've just gotten really good at being depressed. You've just gotten really good at procrastinating, because it's what you choose every time. And there's so many reasons why you would choose it. This is not to shame anybody, because there's so many reasons why you would choose that trauma. Actually having mental health issues that aren't solvable through just your mindset, right? You need medication or whatever that is. Like there's all these reasons as to why showing up consistently in your life that way, but you are showing up consistently in your life that way. So it's easy to fall into the trap of labeling yourself as that. But you can change. You really can. It takes some effort, but you can change. It's not permanent. As permanent as it feels right now, it's not. The mindset that I am still struggling with right now is perfectionism. I know a lot of us struggle with that. It's just this feeling that if it's not perfect, it's just not worth doing. Or even the concept of like, I'm waiting for the perfect moment to start, right? When I have X, Y, and Z, then I'll do this. There's a quote this year that really blew this belief up for me that I need to wait for the perfect moment, or if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing, was don't wait for the perfect moment, make the moment perfect. Because the perfect moment is a decision. It doesn't seem like it, because sometimes it's a feeling. And sometimes things really do line up that make it easy to choose to start. But even in that moment where it's easy to start, it was a decision for you to start the thing. There have been so many times that I wanted to start this podcast and I was like, okay, you know what? December would be the perfect time because I would have enough time to put it out, and then I can start seeing if people need help with their goal setting in January and blah, 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 blah. Like, right? I had this whole concept of when the perfect time was, and then I missed it, right? I missed it. I absolutely missed that mark. And then a new perfect time came up. All of these things are super arbitrary, and you can decide, okay, today is the perfect time to start. Or even better, I don't need things to be perfect for me to start. I'm going to start with what I have and what I can do at this moment. And I'm going to grow and learn from there. If you're listening to this right now and you have a goal, or a project or something in mind that you've been wanting to start, I want you to do this exercise real quick. And it's just a thought exercise. Just think for a second and ask yourself, why is right now the best time to start? And see what comes up. Make sure you reach out to tell me what came up for you. But what you'll find is that your brain will find the answers to the questions you ask it. You're a smart cookie. You're going to think of some reasons as to why this might be a really good, if not a perfect time for you to start your project, your initiative, whatever it is. This podcast is coming out in January, so it's a perfect time to start something because it's the new year. Duh. Next month, it's the first day of the month. And next time, it's Monday. So that's the start of the week. So this is a perfect time to do it. Or it's your birthday. This is a perfect time to do it. Or the moon is in a specific phase. So it's the perfect time to do it. You see what I'm talking about? Like, it's very arbitrary and it's very much a decision. And I want you to feel confident in that decision that you starting, you can handle the consequences of learning, which is that you might not be as good as you want. It may not come out exactly as you expected it to, but you have the rest of your life to cultivate that skill. This is the greatest time to start. So I want you to just envision why it might be the best time for you to start on whatever you're looking to achieve. And that brings me to my next point, which is another pattern of thinking that I had when I had a really unhealthy relationship with goals. And that one is confusing manifestation with wishful thinking. So a lot of times what I hear in the new age, like spiritual community with manifestation is like, you just need to feel good. You just need to raise your vibration and everything will come to you. It should be easy. It should be effortless. And this is super detrimental because the reality is that, first of all, you don't need to be a good person to achieve your goals. There are millions of really heinous, bad people who have achieved great things. Hello, Donald Trump. They have achieved great things and they are not good people. So the concept that you need to be a good person, that you need to have high vibration, like that kind of falls apart there. You don't even need to be happy to achieve your goals. Believe that. You don't need to be happy either. There are tons of miserable people who are achieving their goals daily and they are wildly successful, and sometimes they unalive themselves. You know what I mean? Like, tons of people who do that. You also don't need to believe in yourself. You don't need to feel good. There are tons of people who achieve stuff and they don't even really practice their self-belief and doing things out of insecurity. They'll build that $1 billion business because they're hoping someone will love them. They have no self-worth, but yet they're executing on the tasks, right? So you don't actually need all those things. Now, does it make your life better and should you strive for that? Absolutely. You want to be happy, a good person, all those things. But feeling good and wanting is not the reason you achieve your goals. The reason you achieve your goals is because you have concrete steps laid out and you take the steps. It's the actions. It's the you doing the damn thing that actually helps you. So if you're feeling really stuck in your manifestation, taking action might be the big piece of the puzzle that's missing for you. To me, manifestation is really helpful. I don't necessarily subscribe to it anymore, but it's really helpful if you think of it as mindset work. So yes, you want to do the internal work of feeling good, raising your quote unquote vibration, whatever that means to you. But if you actually want things in the physical world, it's going to take more than that. It's going to take you actually speaking up, talking to people, going out, posting your content, reaching out, doing your push-ups at the gym. Like, you can't just sit and meditate your way to be a strong, muscular body. You have to go to the gym and do your damn push-ups, run on the damn treadmill. So to make that easy for you, or not even easy, but just more enjoyable, and to make the process enjoyable, you want to have those finite goals that give you a blip, something to pop a bottle to or celebrate, right? Of course, you want those big awards and those big moments. But those tiny moments, right? Those infinite goals of, I want to be more compassionate. I want to be a healthy person and make decisions that are healthy. If you have those systematic goals, those finite and systematic goals, if you have those, you have so many moments during your day to congratulate yourself, to celebrate yourself, to tell yourself how proud you are of yourself. And that makes it easy to keep going. If negative reinforcement, as in shitting on yourself, if that kind of stuff actually worked and was super sustainable, it would have worked by now for you. Like, aren't you tired of shitting on yourself all day? It doesn't work. You got to be kinder to yourself. Now, just because you're kind and compassionate doesn't mean you put up with your shit. Okay? So let me give you an example. When I was striving to wake up on time, I would be in bed and I was super depressed at the time. And I was like, I'm going to be nice to myself, but I'm also going to stop putting up with my shit. So I would be like, hey, girl, I love you. I love you so much. And I know this feels really challenging, but you got to get out of bed. Okay? I know it's good for you. And you know it's good for you. So let's do this. Just pull the cover. You got this. I'm breaking it down, right? I'm breaking down my goal. This is just getting out the bed, right? But we're going to do this for bigger goals too. But just to give you an idea. Okay, you pulled the cover. I'm so proud of you. That's a really hard thing to do. And I know that took a lot of effort. Okay, let's put just one leg out. Just one leg. You got this. You got this. You got this. Oh my God, it's on the floor. I'm so proud of you. You're doing it. Like, you're moving in the direction that you want to go. And it's okay that it feels hard today. And I know that it feels challenging. I know, but let me tell you, I'm so proud of you because you've already gotten this far. Let's try your next leg, right? Game changer for me, right? Until I got out of the bed and I was showering and I was da-da-da. And now I do it all the time to myself, right? For tasks that are larger, because now I'm in a better place and getting out of the bed is not as hard, but some days it is. But right now it's not as hard. So I don't need that pep talk all the time, but I do that. And I celebrate myself all the time. I'll tell myself all the time, I'm like, hey, I appreciate you texting your friends today because I know it's something you could easily not done, but I know that it's really important for you to feel connected and have some belonging and be an active part of your community. I know that matters to you. So I just want to let you know that I'm so proud of you for taking the steps to do that. It feels small, but it feels big today. But this is something that's helping you connect over time with the people you love and care about. And I'm so proud of you, right? I do it to myself all the time and it keeps me motivated. It's like when you're at a job and they treat you really well, or you're with a partner and they treat you really well. And so you just want to give them the world. You just want to do everything for them. And it's like an outpouring of yourself. That's how I want you to feel for yourself. Because if you do that along the journey, you're going to feel good on the daily, every day, as you're taking those consistent steps. And not only are you going to keep going, but you're also going to feel good about it. So when you hit that milestone, you get the award, you run the marathon, you lose the 10 pounds, it's just another like day, but not in a bad way, like in a beautiful way. It was inevitable because you've been doing all this work, but you're not just going to be happy for a temporary moment when you get that finite thing, that milestone, right? Because a lot of times you reach that milestone, you're happy for a moment, and then you go back to your baseline. This is improving and increasing your baseline of where you're at. So that was a long podcast, but I want you to feel supported and have a better and healthy relationship with goals, goal setting, achieving your dreams, action, emotional regulation, all of these things. And if you have goals that you're working on and you need any support, feel free to reach out to me. This is my favorite thing in the world to do and talk about and help people with. And I have a free community that you can sign up for down in the link in the bio. So if you're looking for a group of people who meet consistently and want to celebrate you for the progress that you're making, but also hold you accountable, baby, check the link out in the bio. But as always, today is the perfect time. And today is a great day to take the first step. So keep on climbing because every step upward counts. I will see you at the top. Until next time, my loves. Mwah. This is the Upward Spiral Podcast.